Imagine standing before a figure of bronze so vast that a grown adult can stand upright inside one of its nostrils. A Buddha cast from nearly all the copper in an entire nation, seated beneath a wooden roof so enormous it held the record as the largest timber structure on Earth for more than 1,000 years. This is a place born out of plague and desperation, raised by the hands of millions, and still watched over by a herd of bowing deer believed to carry messages from the gods. Today, you are walking into one of the most astonishing temples humanity has ever built. Welcome to Walking Tour of Japan, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in Japan with every episode. Each week, we'll travel to a different destination, from ancient temples and stunning gardens to fascinating cities, historic landmarks, and hidden gems tucked away across this incredible country. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com, where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore Japan. We begin in the city of Nara, in the wide green expanse of the park that spreads across the eastern edge of town. The air smells of pine and cut grass, and you have not gone far before you notice you are not alone. Deer, hundreds of them, move freely through the park, lounging in the shade, nosing at visitors, occasionally bowing their heads in that uncanny way they have learned earns them a cracker. For more than 1,000 years, these animals have been considered sacred here, regarded as messengers of the gods, and to this day they wander the grounds completely undisturbed. Walk among them slowly. They are wild and gentle and entirely unbothered by your presence. Ahead of you, the path narrows and funnels toward an enormous wooden gate rising out of the trees. This is the Great South Gate, in Japanese, the Nandaimon, and it is your formal entrance into the temple complex of Todai-ji, the Great Eastern Temple. Pause here a moment before you step through, because this gate is a masterpiece in its own right. It stands roughly 25 meters tall, its great pillars rising in a single unbroken sweep, braced by horizontal beams that lock the whole structure together without a single nail. From the outside, it looks like it has 2 stories, but step beneath it and look up. It is hollow all the way to the rafters. An astonishing feat of Kamakura-era engineering rebuilt some 8 centuries ago after the original was lost. And you are not passing through unwatched. Set into the 2 great alcoves on either side of you stand a pair of guardian kings, the Neo, fierce, muscled, towering figures carved from wood, each more than 8 meters tall. They were created by 2 of the most celebrated sculptors in Japanese history, working with a team of assistants over just a couple of months, and the energy frozen in their bodies is extraordinary. Veins, sinew, the snap of fabric caught mid-motion. Look closely and you'll notice something unusual. One has his mouth open, the other clamped shut. Together, they sound out the first and last letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, the beginning and the end of all things. But here they have been placed facing inward toward each other and reversed from the arrangement you'd find at almost any other temple in Japan. Most visitors stride straight past them. Don't. Stand between them for a moment and feel how small they are meant to make you feel. Now move forward, through the gate and out the other side, and the path opens up again. On your right, just past the gate, you'll see the Temple Museum. We'll come back to that idea later, but for now, keep walking, because something is beginning to reveal itself at the far end of the approach. As you continue along the wide gravel avenue, the trees fall away, and there, framed dead ahead across a broad open courtyard, sits the building you came to see. Take a breath. Photographs do not prepare you for it. Before you rises the Great Buddha Hall, the Daibutsuden, a wooden building of almost impossible scale, its sweeping tiled roof curving up at the corners, its facade dominated by a great gabled window through which, even from out here, you can glimpse the golden face of the figure inside. For most of its history, this was the largest wooden structure anywhere in the world. And here is the truly humbling part. The building you are looking at is only about 2/3 the width of the original. The first hall was even wider. Let that settle for a second. To understand why anyone would build something this enormous, you have to go back nearly 13 centuries. In the early 700s, this region was the capital of Japan, and the country was suffering. A devastating smallpox epidemic had swept through the population, killing perhaps a third of everyone alive. Crops failed for years running. There were rebellions, political assassinations, a sense that the heavens themselves had turned against the realm. The emperor of the time, a devout Buddhist named Shomu, became convinced that only an act of overwhelming faith could restore order. So in the year 743, he issued an astonishing command. He would build the largest gilt bronze statue of the Buddha the world had ever seen and house it here as the spiritual heart of a network of temples spanning the entire nation. The cost was staggering. The statue swallowed nearly all the bronze in Japan and relied on gold imported from the edges of the known world. By some accounts, more than 2.5 million people, close to half the population of the country, contributed labor, materials, or coin to the project. It nearly bankrupted the realm, and a court chronicle of the day quietly noted that the people suffered greatly under the weight of its construction. It took years of casting, pouring the bronze in 8 enormous stages. The head and shoulders formed as one. And in the year 752, the work was crowned with a single ceremony so grand it is still spoken of today. Hold that thought as you climb the few steps and pass into the hall, because you're about to stand where that ceremony took place. Step inside and let your eyes adjust to the cool, dim light. And then look up. There it is. The Great Buddha of Nara, seated, serene, almost 15 meters of dark bronze rising into the shadows of the rafters. The figure represents the cosmic Buddha, the one whose light is said to illuminate the entire universe, and its sheer presence is difficult to put into words. One open palm alone is as tall as a person standing. The face, calm and downcast, seems to gaze at a point just beyond you. Notice the hundreds of tight bronze curls covering the head, each one cast separately, and tradition holds it took an extra 2 years just to complete the hair after the body was finished. Walk slowly around to the side, and you'll see the great bronze lotus petals forming the pedestal beneath the figure. Look at them carefully. Those petals are among the very few pieces of the statue that survive from the original 8th century casting. The Buddha you see has not had an easy life. The head you are looking at toppled to the ground in a massive earthquake a century after it was built. The whole hall around it has burned to the ground, not once but twice in 2 separate wars, the flames consuming and melting much of what came before. What stands today was largely recast and rebuilt in later centuries. And yet the figure endures, restored again and again by the devotion of each generation that inherited it. Continue around behind the statue and you'll come upon something that breaks the solemn mood entirely. Set into the base of one of the great supporting pillars is a hole, a rectangular opening near the floor, roughly the size, so the story goes, of the great Buddha's nostril. For generations, visitors, especially children, have wriggled and squeezed their way through it, because passing through is said to grant good fortune and protection in the life to come. If there's a line of giggling schoolchildren taking turns to slither through, you found it. You're welcome to try, though I'd suggest sizing up the opening honestly before you commit. Before you leave the hall, take a slow circuit of the interior. You'll find scale models showing what the complex looked like in its original form, when it was even grander than today, flanked by a pair of pagodas that each soared to nearly 100 meters, among the tallest structures in the ancient world. There are smaller attendant figures around the main Buddha, painted guardians, and quiet corners where you can simply sit on a bench and take in the scale of the place without the crowds pressing in. Now step back out into the daylight. Just in front of the hall, easy to walk past, stands a tall bronze lantern, 8-sided, weathered green with age. Stop here because this modest object is one of the oldest things on the entire site, dating all the way back to the temple's founding. Look at the panels of the fire chamber. On 4 of them, you can make out figures of celestial musicians, robes and scarves swirling as if caught in a breeze, one of them lifting an instrument to play. They have stood here playing their silent music for more than 1,200 years. Leaving the main hall behind, turn to your right and follow the path that climbs gently up the hillside to the east. The crowds thin almost immediately, and within a few minutes the noise of the courtyard gives way to birdsong and the crunch of gravel underfoot. This quieter approach is one of the loveliest corners of the whole complex, and most day trippers never find it. Stone walls flank the lane, deer doze in the shade, and the path winds upward past smaller halls, including one of the oldest surviving buildings on the grounds, a modest structure that has stood largely intact for over 1,000 years. Keep climbing, and you'll arrive at a hall perched on the slope, its wooden veranda jutting out over the hillside on tall pillars. Step up onto that balcony and turn around. Spread out below you is the whole of Nara, the great roof of the Buddha Hall you just left, the green ocean of the park, and the city beyond it fading into the hills. This terrace is the setting for one of the most dramatic rituals in the Japanese calendar, a fire and water ceremony held over 2 weeks every spring, when monks race along the balcony brandishing enormous flaming torches, showering sparks down onto the crowds below for good fortune. It has been performed here without a single interruption for more than 12 centuries. If you can time your visit for late afternoon, linger up here as the light turns gold. There is often a small rest area nearby where you may be offered a cup of free tea, and the view at this hour is something you'll carry with you. When you're ready, take the gentle path back down through the trees. And as you go, hold on to this thought. Everything you've seen today, the colossal Buddha, the soaring hall, the guardians at the gate, was built by a frightened people in their darkest hour, an entire nation pouring its bronze and its gold and its labor into a single prayer that the suffering might end. Fire took it, war took it, earthquakes shook it, and every time the people who came after gathered themselves and built it again. That, more than the scale, more than the gold, is what this place really is. Not a monument to power, but a 1,000-year act of stubborn collective hope. Stand here a moment longer and let that settle before you walk back out among the deer. When hunger catches up with you, you won't have to go far. Tucked into the woods of the park is a rustic little tea house with a thatched roof, beloved for its simple bowls of hot udon and matcha sweets after a long walk. For something uniquely local, seek out a shop specializing in kakinoha sushi, Nara's own sushi, each piece wrapped and pressed in a persimmon leaf for a subtle, distinctive flavor. If you'd rather sit down for a proper meal, there's a refined spot near the park serving beautifully prepared Wagyu beef in a traditional setting overlooking a garden. And for a quietly memorable lunch, look for a small pickle buffet restaurant near the temple grounds where an all-you-can-eat spread of vegetables, rice, and miso soup makes for a calm and unexpectedly delightful break. And if you have time before you leave, there's more to see close by. A short walk leads to a serene Edo period strolling garden famous for the way it frames distant mountains and the temple's great gate as part of its own design, a technique called borrowed scenery. Deeper into the forest sits one of Japan's most atmospheric shrines, its pathways lined with thousands of moss-covered stone and bronze lanterns beneath towering ancient trees. And of course, there's the park itself, more than 500 hectares of open meadow and woodland, and the famous deer who have made it, and you, part of their daily round for over a millennium. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring Japan. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond Japan, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next walk.